You've been scrolling through endless drone videos, wondering if you can finally get a machine that doesn't scream toy the moment you try to use it for real work. You want something that stays in the air long enough to actually capture a scene, that can handle a windy park without wobbling, and that won't drain your bank account for a set of features you'll never touch. The hesitation is real. The market is full of drones that brag about megapixels and range, but when you pull the strap on a Saturday afternoon, you care more about how easy the system is to set up, how reliable the connection feels, and whether the footage you get actually justifies the price tag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into the Mavic line, the biggest red flag that kept me up at night was the "what if I'm stuck in the middle of a shoot and the drone decides to glitch?" question. The Mavic 4 Pro promises a new triple-camera rig, a half-hour of flight, and an 18-mile control radius, which sounds like a perfect match for both hobbyists who want cinematic shots and small business owners who need reliable aerial footage for marketing. But those numbers only matter if the drone actually behaves like a dependable tool when you're out in the field. So I spent a few weekends taking it from the box to a local vineyard, a city rooftop at dusk, and a low-light concert venue to see how it really performs. First off, the packing experience is surprisingly thoughtful. The included backpack slides everything in: the drone, controller, spare battery, a 128GB microSD card, and a landing pad, and the weight is manageable enough that you can lug it on a hike without feeling like you're hauling a brick. The landing pad is more than a convenience. On uneven grass it gives the gimbal a solid surface, which you'll notice when you try those smooth, sweeping shots that usually end up with a wobble. Setting it up is a matter of pulling the straps, unfolding the propellers, and powering on. The DJI app syncs within seconds, and the live video feed pops up with a clear HUD that tells you battery, signal strength, and a quick status of the obstacle sensors. Now, the real test is how the drone behaves when you're actually filming. The triple camera system is the headline feature. One lens is a 6K60 frames per second sensor, another is a 100MP stills camera, and the third is a low-light fisheye that kicks in for night shots. In practice, the 6K footage looks sharp, especially when you're shooting a vineyard row at sunrise. The color grading is natural, and the dynamic range holds up when you transition from bright foliage to a darker sky. The 100MP stills are a fun add-in. You can capture a high-resolution aerial panorama that you can later slice into a giant print without losing detail. The low-light fisheye is where the night flight claim shines. On a dimly lit city rooftop at 10 p.m., the drone managed to keep a usable image with only a little noise, which is impressive for a consumer-grade unit. One of the biggest practical strengths is the ActiveTrack 360 system. I tried it while moving through a crowded market, and the drone kept the subject centered even as people walked around, without the usual jerky corrections you see on older models. The Omnidirectional avoidance sensors also felt trustworthy. When a stray branch brushed the flight path, the drone nudged away smoothly instead of making a sudden drop. That safety net matters if you're flying in urban environments where unexpected obstacles are the norm. Flight time is another area where the Mavic 4 Pro lives up to its promise. The advertised 51 minutes is the absolute max under perfect conditions, but on a typical mixed terrain day I got around 38 minutes before the battery warned me to return. That's a solid improvement over the previous generation, where you'd start worrying after 20 minutes. The extra minutes translate directly into fewer interruptions. You can capture an entire sunset sequence without swapping batteries midway. The 18-mile range feels more like a theoretical ceiling than a daily reality, but the signal remained stable up to at least 5 miles in open field tests, which is plenty for most hobby and commercial projects. That said, there are a few practical weaknesses that you'll notice once the novelty wears off. The drone's size, while still portable, is larger than the earlier Mavic Mini models, meaning you'll need a bit more space for safe takeoff and landing. If you're a frequent traveler who relies on a small carry-on, the backpack will take up a decent chunk of that space. The controller, despite its solid build, still has a learning curve. The joysticks feel a little stiff at first, and the button layout isn't as intuitive as some competitors. It took a couple of flights to muscle memory for the quick swap of camera angles. Another hidden trade-off is the reliance on the 128GB microSD card that comes in the box. While it's generous for most shoots, shooting 6K video at 60 frames per second eats up storage fast. After a half hour of continuous